Welcome to our deep dive into the epic world of the Iliad. Welcome to our deep dive into the epic world of the Iliad. In this video, we explore the intense and action-packed Books 5, where the gods and heroes of ancient Greece clash on the battlefield of Troy. We'll be walking you through the gripping scenes, highlighting the pivotal moments and showcasing the rich dialogues between some of the most iconic characters in literature. Whether you're a long-time fan of Homer's work or discovering it for the first time, this video will bring the power and drama of these ancient tales to life. Book 5, Diomedes goes to battle. Athena inspires Diomedes with special powers. Athena takes Ares from the battle. Achaean leaders kill many Trojans. Diomedes' special glory on the field. Pandarus hits Diomedes with an arrow. Athena restores Diomedes, who continues his battle frenzy. Aeneas and Pandarus move out against Diomedes. Diomedes kills Pandarus, wounds Aeneas. Aphrodite saves Aeneas. Sthenelus captures Aeneas's horses. Diomedes attacks and wounds Aphrodite, who returns to Olympus. Diomedes threatens Apollo. Apollo heals Aeneas. Sarpedon complains to Hector. The battle continues. Sarpedon kills Tlepolemus but is wounded. Athena and Hera go down to the battlefield. Athena and Diomedes attack and wound Ares. Ares returns to Olympus. Then Pallas Athena gave Diomedes, son of Tydeus, strength and courage, so among all Argives he would stand out and win heroic glory. She made his helmet blaze with tireless flames, his shield as well, like a late star in summer which shines especially bright, newly risen from its bath in ocean streams. Around his head and shoulders the goddess put a fiery glow, then drove him forward, right into the middle of the strife, the killing zone, where most warriors fight. Among the Trojans was a rich and honourable man called Dares, priest of Hephaestus. He had two sons, Phegeus and Idaeus, both very skilled in all aspects of war. Moving forward in their chariot to the front, these two charged Diomedes, who was on foot, staying on the ground. When they were at close range, Phegeus was the first to hurl his long, shadowed spear. The spear point flew by Diomedes' left shoulder. It missed him. Tydeus' son then threw his spear. The weapon did not leave his hand and missed the target. It hit Phegeus right between the nipples and knocked him from his splendid chariot. Idaeus jumped out and ran off from his horses. He didn't dare protect his slaughtered brother's corpse. Even so, he would not have escaped black doom, but Hephaestus saved him with a dark cloud cover so his aged father would not waste away with grief. Tydeus' son, great Diomedes, drove the horses off, then gave them to his comrades to take back to the ships. When great-hearted Trojans saw those two sons of Dares, one shunning battle, one dead beside his chariot, all their hearts were stirred. Then Athena, eyes glittering, took her brother, headstrong Ares, by the hand and said, "Athena, Ares, insatiable man-killer, destroyer of cities, why don't we leave Trojans and Achaeans to fight it out? Father Zeus will make one group victorious. Let's withdraw, avoiding Zeus's anger." With these words, she led headstrong Ares from the battle, then sat him down by Scamander river bank. Darnans then began to push the Trojans back. Each leader killed his enemy. First, Agamemnon, king of men, threw huge Odius, chief of the Halizoni, from his chariot. His spear first struck him in the back, between the shoulder blades, as he turned to flee. It drove clean through his chest. Odius pitched forward with a thud, his armour rattling round him as he fell. Idomeneus slaughtered Phaestus, son of Borus, a Maeonian who'd come from fertile Tarn. With his long spear, skillful Idomeneus struck him in his right shoulder as he climbed in his chariot. Dreadful darkness came and gathered Phaestus in. Those attending Idomeneus stripped the armour. Then with his sharp spear Menelaus, son of Atreus, killed Scamandrius, son of Strophius, a huntsman. Artemis herself had taught him how to shoot every animal raised in the mountain forests. But archer Artemis was no help to him then, no more than was his expertise in archery, at which he'd been preeminent in former times. For fine spearman Menelaus, son of Atreus, caught him as he ran away in front of him, hitting him in the back between his shoulder blades, forcing the spear right through Scamandrius' chest. He fell head first, his armour rattled round him. Meriones then killed Phereclus, son of Tecton, Harmon's son, whose hands could make fine objects of all sorts. Pallas Athena had a special love for him. He was the one who made well-balanced ships for Paris at the start of all the trouble, bringing disaster on the Trojans, and on Paris too, for he was ignorant of what gods had decreed. Meriones went after Phereclus as he ran off, hurled his spear straight into his right buttock. The spear point pushed on through, below the bone, piercing his bladder. He fell down on his knees, screaming. Then death carried him into its shadows. Meges killed Pedaeus, Antenor's bastard son. Theano had raised him with all care, loving him as one of her own children to please her husband. That famous spearman, Meges, son of Phyleus, coming up close, drove a sharp spear in his neck into the nape behind his head. The bronze point, slicing underneath his tongue, smashed through his teeth. He fell into the dust, jaws locked on the cold bronze. Eurypylus, Euaemon's son, killed Lord Hypsenor, son of proud Dolopian, Scamander's priest, a man honoured by his people as a god. Eurypylus, Euaemon's splendid son, caught him as he ran off in front of him. Going quickly after him, Eurypylus struck at Hypsenor's shoulder. His sharp sword sliced off Hypsenor's brawny arm. The bloody limb fell on the ground. Then Death's black knight, all-powerful fate, moved in and stole away his sight. Thus these men kept toiling in the battle frenzy. As for Diomedes, you could not tell where he belonged, whether among the Trojans or Achaeans. For he rushed across the plain like a swollen river, like a swift winter torrent bursting dikes. No dam put in its way can hold it back, no barrier of fruitful vineyards check its current, as all at once it floods when storms from Zeus roar down. It knocks aside all fine things built by farmers, hard-working men. That's how the son of Tydeus drove the dense ranks of Trojans into mass confusion. For all their numbers they could not contain him. Lycaon's fine son saw Diomedes moving fast along the plain, pushing Trojan ranks in front of him in complete disorder. He quickly bent his bow, taking aim at Diomedes. He shot an arrow and hit him on his sculpted body armour in the right shoulder. The sharp arrow went in there, kept going, and splattered blood down on the curving metal. At this, Lycaon's noble son gave out a noisy shout. "Lycaon's son, come on, you brave horse-lashing Trojans! For the finest of Achaeans has been hurt. I don't think he'll long survive my arrow's force if Apollo, son of Zeus, really was the one who put it in my heart to leave Lycia." That's what Lycaon's son cried out, boasting aloud. But his sharp arrow had not killed Diomedes, who moved back to stand beside his chariot and horses. He called to Sthenelus, son of Capaneus. "Diomedes, my friend, son of Capaneus, come on, get down from the chariot, so you can pull this sharp arrow from my shoulder for me." Diomedes spoke. Sthenelus jumped down on the ground. Standing beside him, he pulled out the sharp arrow stuck in his shoulder. Blood seeped through the woven shirt. Diomedes, expert in war cries, then spoke this prayer. Diomedes, hear me, Athena, unwearied daughter of Aegis-bearing Zeus. If you've ever loved my father, stood by his side in murderous combat, be my friend now. Grant that I kill this man, that I come a spear's throw from the one who hit me unexpectedly and now boasts about it, saying I won't see daylight for much longer." As Diomedes prayed, Pallas Athena heard. She put fresh strength into his legs and upper arms. Standing close beside him, she spoke. Her words had wings. "Athena, take courage, Diomedes, in this fight with Trojans. I put your father's strength into your chest, that shield-bearing horseman's fearless power, and I've removed the filter from your eyes which covered them before, so now you'll easily distinguish gods from men. If a god comes here and stands against you, don't offer to fight any deathless one, except for Aphrodite, Zeus's daughter. If she fights, go at her with your sharp bronze." Bright-eyed Athena left. Asterisk, asterisk, bright-eyed Athena left. Diomedes charged off, joining at once those soldiers fighting in the front, his spirit on fire to battle Trojans, seized by frenzy 3 times greater than before. He was like a lion slightly hurt by a shepherd guarding his sheep flock out in the wilds when it jumps the wall into the pen, but he's not killed it. The wound rouses the beast's strength. The shepherd can't keep the charging lion from his sheep, who, left unguarded, panic. Huddled in a mass, they crowd in on one another, so the lion in his hot rage leaps over the wide sheepfold wall. That's how strong Diomedes went to fight the Trojans in his angry fury. First he killed Astinus and then Hypeion, a shepherd of his people. His bronze spear hit one right above the nipple. His huge sword struck the other on the collar by the shoulder, slicing through the shoulder bone, severing it from Hypeion's neck and back. He left them there to chase Abus and Polyidus, sons of old Eurydamas, interpreter of dreams. The old man did not visit them to explain their dreams, for mighty Diomedes slaughtered both of them. Then Diomedes went after Xanthus and Thune, two sons of Phaenops, both of whom he loved. Worn down by sad old age, he'd have no other child, no person to inherit all his property. Diomedes killed them, took the life they loved, leaving bitter grief and anguish for their father, who would not welcome them back home from war alive. His next of kin thus divided up his assets. Diomedes then challenged two sons of Priam, son of Dardanus, both in a single chariot, Echemon and Chromius. Just as a lion leaps onto cattle and snaps necks on the cows, some heifer grazing in the bushes, so Tydeus' son knocked them out of their chariot viciously, against their will. Then he stripped their armour. His companions took the horses to the ships. Aeneas saw Diomedes cutting his way through ranks of soldiers. He charged on through the fight, the clash of spears, looking for Pandarus. He met Lycaon's son, a fine and powerful man. Standing close by, Aeneas said to him, "Aeneas, Pandarus wears your bow, your feathered arrows, your reputation as a splendid archer. No man can match your expertise in that. No one in Lycia can claim to be your better. Come, raise your hands in prayer to Zeus, then shoot an arrow at that man, whose force now dominates the field, hurting Trojans badly, hacking limbs from many fine young men, unless of course it is some angry god, displeased with Trojans' sacrificial gifts. It's hard to stand against a raging god." To Aeneas, Lycaon's fine son then replied Pandarus, "Aeneas, counsellor to bronze-armed Trojans, from all I see I think that man must be the warlike son of Tydeus. I know him by his shield, the visor on his helmet, and by looking at his horses. I'm not sure he's not a god. But if he's the man I think he is, the fierce son of Tydeus, he could not be charging at us in this way without help from some god beside him, an immortal with a covering cloud around his shoulders, the god who pushed aside that sharp arrow which struck Diomedes. For I've already shot an arrow at him, hit his shoulder through that moulded armour. I thought I'd shipped him straight to Hades, but I didn't kill him. The man must be some angry god. But we've no horses here, no chariot for me to chase him in. In storage in Lycaon's house somewhere there are 11 chariots, new ones too. They're beautiful and made just recently, but covered up with drapes. Beside each one stand pairs of horses, munching wheat and barley. When I was coming here, old soldier Lycaon, in his well-built home, gave me much advice. He told me to take chariots and horses when I lead Trojans to the hot heart of war. But I didn't follow his advice. If I had, things would have been much better for me. But I worried about the horses. They'd lack forage with so many men all crammed together, and they were used to eating very well. I left them and came to Troy to fight on foot, relying on my expertise in archery. But that skill is apparently of little use. For already I've hit 2 of their best men, Tydeus' son and the son of Atreus. I've drawn blood from both of them, it's true, but that just made them much more dangerous. It was an evil time. That day I took my curved bow off its peg to lead my Lycians to lovely Troy, a favour for Prince Hector. If I get home and see with my own eyes my native land, my wife, my large and lofty home, let someone chop my head off on the spot. If I don't smash this bow with my own hands and throw the pieces in the blazing fire. For me it's been completely useless." Aeneas, leader of the Trojans, then replied, "Aeneas, don't talk like that. Things won't change at all until the 2 of us go out to challenge Diomedes with a chariot and horses, until we confront him with our weapons. Come, get in my chariot. Then you'll see how good these horses are from Tros' stock, skilled in rapid movement on the plain, in all directions, in pursuit or in retreat. This pair will take us safely to the city, should Zeus give victory to Diomedes. Let's go. Take the whip and glistening reins. I'll leave you the horses so I can fight, or if you fight him, I'll control the horses." Lycaon's fine son then said in reply, "Pandarus, Aeneas, you should take the reins yourself, guide your own horses, for they will pull your curving chariot that much better with a driver they're both accustomed to, if we must flee Tydeus' son this time. If they miss your voice, they may shy or panic, or refuse to charge straight into battle. Then the son of great-hearted Tydeus in his attack may kill us both and lead these swift horses off. You drive the chariot, guide your horses. I'll do battle with him. My spear will give him a sharp welcome." They finished talking, climbed up together, and set off, riding out in a fine chariot, both keen to kill, driving the swift horses against Tydeus' son. Seeing them coming, Sthenelus, Capaneus' brave son, at once spoke up to Diomedes. His words had wings, Sthenelus. Diomedes, son of Tydeus, my heart's true friend, I see two men approaching, eager to attack you, two powerful men, an outstanding team. One is Pandarus, the skillful archer who boasts he's Lycaon's son. The other is Aeneas, proud Anchises' son, that's his claim, his mother's Aphrodite. So, come, let's retire with the horses in case our quick charge through the killing zone ends up costing you your precious life. Strong Diomedes, with a scowl, answered Sthenelus. Diomedes, don't talk of moving back, for I know well you won't persuade me. By birth it's not in me to shirk war or seek refuge, my spirit's strong, nor am I keen to climb up in the chariot. I'll go to fight them as I am on foot. Pallas Athena does not allow me to withdraw in fear. Their horses may be fast, but they'll not carry them both back again, away from us, even if one escapes. But I will tell you this, keep it in mind. If Athena, that clever schemer, gives me great glory and I do kill them both, then you must hold our swift horses here, tying these reins up to the chariot rail. Remember to run down Aeneas's team, then drive those horses from the Trojans to well-armed Achaeans. For those horses come from the stock that wide-seeing Zeus gave Tros, payment for Ganymede, his son. They are the finest horses under the sun, beneath the light of day. Anchises, king of men, got some of that line by stealth, putting his mares into Laomedon's herd without his knowledge. 6 of those horses became the breeding stock on his estate. He kept 4 of them in his own stable and gave Aeneas 2, horses so fierce they scatter men before them. If we can, we'll catch these 2 and win ourselves great glory. As they talked to each other of their strategy, the fast horses quickly brought the 2 men closer. Lycaon's worthy son spoke first, shouting out, "Pandarus, great-spirited, warlike son of Tydeus, that noble man, I see that my sharp arrow, a bitter shaft, did not destroy you, so now I'll try to hit you with my spear." He spoke, balanced his long-shadowed spear, and threw it. The spear hit the son of Tydeus on his shield. The bronze point pierced it, but stopped at the body armour. Seeing that, Lycaon's fine son let out a mighty cheer. "Pandarus, you're hit right in the ribs. You won't last long. I think you've given me a glorious triumph." Unperturbed, powerful Diomedes said to him, "Diomedes, you're wrong. You haven't hit me. In my view, this matter won't end for the 2 of you, until one of you falls dead and his blood satisfies in full hard warlike Ares." That said, he threw his spear. Athena guided it straight to Pandarus's nose, directly by the eyes. It smashed through his white teeth. The tireless bronze sliced through his tongue at its root, coming out his chin, right at the tip. Pandarus fell from the chariot, his brightly shining armour rattling round him. The swiftly running horses swerved aside. Then and there his life force, his spirit, left him. Aeneas then leapt down with his long spear and shield, fearing Achaeans would somehow haul away the corpse. He made a stand by Pandarus, like a lion, confident of its strength. He held his spear in front, his round shield too, with fearful shouts, fiercely eager to kill anyone who came up to confront him. The son of Tydeus picked up a stone, a massive rock that no 2 men now alive could lift. He threw it all by himself with ease. It hit Aeneas's leg, where thigh meets pelvis, what people call the hip joint. The boulder smashed the socket and both tendons round it. The rough edges on the rock scraped off his skin. Falling to his knees, warlike Aeneas stayed down, supporting himself with his strong hand on the ground. Black night came down and covered both his eyes. Aeneas, king of men, would have perished there, if Aphrodite, Zeus's daughter, had not seen him right away. She was his mother. She'd conceived him with Anchises while he was tending cattle. Wrapping her white arms around the son she loved, she hid him in the folds of her bright gown to ward off any spears, should some Danaan driving with swift horses hurl a spear into his chest and take his life. She then began to carry her dear son from the fight. Meanwhile, Sthenelus, son of Capaneus, did not forget what Diomedes, skilled in war cries, told him. He pulled his sure-footed horses to one side, beyond the fight, tying the reins onto the rail, and then went after those fine maned horses of Aeneas. He drove the animals away from Trojan lines towards well-armed Achaeans. There he gave them to his dear companion, Deipylus, whom he esteemed above all others the same age as himself, since they both thought alike. He instructed him to take them to the hollow ships. Then brave Sthenelus climbed back into his chariot, grabbed the shining reins and raced the strong horses back, keen to rejoin Diomedes. But Diomedes, with his ruthless bronze, had gone to run down Aphrodite, knowing she was not a god who could do much in battle, not one of those who control men's wars. She was no Athena, no goddess strife, who destroys whole cities. He chased her through the crowded battle zone. When he met her, great-hearted Tydeus' son charged, lunging with his sharp spear at Aphrodite. His weapon wounded her slim wrist, piercing the skin above her hand, right through her godlike robe, a garment the Graces had made for her themselves. Immortal divine fluid then flowed out, ichor, which circulates only in the blessed gods, who do not eat food or drink down gleaming wine. Hence they lack blood, and men call them immortal. Aphrodite screamed wildly and let go of her son, but Phoebus Apollo caught him in his hands, then shielded him with a dark cloud, just in case some fast-riding Danaan threw a spear into his chest and took away his life. Then Diomedes, expert in war cries, shouted loudly, "Diomedes, daughter of Zeus, leave war and fights alone. Isn't it enough for you to fool around with feeble women? If you start loitering on the battlefield, I think the war will make you shake with terror, even though you learn about it from a distance." Diomedes spoke. Aphrodite left in agony, distressed and fearful. Windswift Iris came to her, led her off, out of the crowd, moaning in pain, her fair skin stained and wounded. She came across fierce Ares, seated on the left flank of the fight, his spear and his fast horses resting on a cloud. Falling on her knees, she implored her dear brother, pleading hard for his golden-bridled horses. "Aphrodite, dear brother, save me. Give me your horses so I may go back up to Mount Olympus, the immortals' home. My wound pains me a lot. A mortal man struck me with his spear, Tydeus' son, who'd now fight Father Zeus himself." At this, Ares gave her his golden-bridled horses. She climbed up in the chariot, her fond heart suffering. Getting in beside her, Iris picked up the reins, then lashed the horses forward. They flew on willingly. At once they reached the god's home, steep Olympus. There windswift Iris stopped the horses, untied them from the chariot, and gave them heavenly fodder. Aphrodite threw herself into her mother's lap, divine Dione, who took her daughter in her arms, caressed her with her hand, then said, "Dione, my dear child, which of the heavenly gods has done this, acted so brazenly against you as if you'd done something evil in broad daylight?" Laughter-loving Aphrodite answered her, "Aphrodite, proud Diomedes, son of Tydeus, wounded me, for I was carrying off Aeneas, my dear son, away from battle. Of all men, he's the one I love the most. Now, grim war is not just Trojans and Achaeans, for Danaans fight against immortals too." "Dione, queen among the goddesses," replied Dione, "be brave, my child, hold on, though you're in pain. Many of us living on Olympus have been hurt by men in our attempts to bring harsh troubles on each other. Ares suffered too when mighty Otus and Ephialtes, children of Aloeus, tied him up in powerful manacles, then kept him prisoner in a brass jar for 13 months. Ares would have died there with all his warlust if their stepmother, fair Erybaea, had not told Hermes. He stole Ares secretly. Ares was exhausted. That harsh imprisonment was breaking him. Hera suffered as well when Hercules, the powerful son of Amphitryon, hit her right breast with a 3-barbed arrow. She was racked by pain beyond all cure. With them, huge Hades also suffered from a sharp arrow when this same man, this Hercules, a son of Aegis-bearing Zeus, shot him in Pylos, among the corpses there, inflicting pain. Hades went straight to Zeus at home on Mount Olympus. His heart enraged, in agony, the arrow buried deep in his strong shoulder. He was incensed. Paeon healed him with pain-killing herbs smeared on the wound, for Hades was immortal. What a wretch he was, that Hercules, a troublemaker. He didn't hesitate to commit bad acts with that bow of his against the gods who dwell on Mount Olympus. But Athena, the bright-eyed goddess, prompted Tydeus' son to go at you. Still, he's a fool for not remembering the man who fights wars against immortals does not live long. His children have no chance to prattle to their father at his knee, once he gets home from war's grim butchery. Diomedes is surely powerful, but he should take care. A greater power than you may come against him." Then Aegialeia, wise daughter of Adrestus and brave wife of horse-taming Diomedes, with cries of sorrow will rouse all her dear household from their sleep, lamenting the husband whom she married. the best of the Achaeans." As she said this, with her hand, Dione cleaned away the ichor on Aphrodite's wrist, healing the hand, curing Aphrodite of her pain. Looking on, Athena and Hera teased Zeus, son of Cronos. Athena and Hera: "Father Zeus, you won't get angry with us for what we say, will you?" Aphrodite, trying to coax some new Achaean woman into running off with one of those Trojans she loves so much, must have been caressing some well-dressed Achaean lady and scratched her delicate hand on a golden brooch. When they spoke, the father of gods and men smiled, called for golden Aphrodite, and then said to her, "Zeus, my child, this warfare is not your business. You should concern yourself with your own work. Love, especially erotic love in marriage. Swift Ares and Athena will take care of this." As the gods talked the matter over with each other, Diomedes, expert at war cries, sought out Aeneas. Though he knew Apollo himself was shielding him, he had no fear at all of that great god, pushing on to kill Aeneas, then strip his fine armour from him. 3 times he charged forward in a frenzy for the kill. 3 times Apollo pushed back his shining shield. But when for the 4th time he came on like a god, Apollo, the far shooter, in a terrifying voice cried, "Apollo, take care, son of Tydeus, go back. Don't think you're equal to the gods. The race of men who walk upon the ground can never match the race of deathless gods." At these words, Diomedes drew back somewhat, avoiding the anger of Apollo, the far shooter. Apollo put Aeneas some distance from the fight, on sacred Pergamus, where his temple stood. There, in the large shrine, Leto and Artemis, the archer goddess, healed Aeneas, restoring him to his former power and magnificence. Apollo of the silver bow then made an image, a copy of Aeneas with matching armour, around which Trojans and brave Achaeans fought, hacking away at oxhide, covering their chests, at the round shields or smaller shields with fringes. Phoebus Apollo then called to foolhardy Ares, "Apollo, Ares, Ares, you blood-stained man-killer, can't you go back to Diomedes and remove him from the battle?" Right now, he'd stand and fight with Father Zeus himself. First, he wounded Aphrodite on the wrist, fighting at close quarters. Then he flung himself like some god at me. After saying this, Apollo took a seat high up on Pergamus. Murderous Ares went in among the Trojan ranks, inspiring the troops. In the shape of Acamas, Thracian leader, he yelled at Priam's royal sons. "Ares, as Acamas, you sons of Priam, that god-nurtured king, why are you still allowing the Achaeans to keep slaughtering your troops? Are you waiting until they fight by the well-built city gates? There lies great-hearted Anchises' son Aeneas, whom we honour as we do Prince Hector. Let's save our brave companion from the battle." Ares' words gave each man courage and blood zest for war. Then Sarpedon spoke to Hector, bitterly complaining, "Sarpedon, Hector, where's that courage you used to have? You kept claiming you could guard the city on your own, without your people or your allies, using your own family and relatives. Looking around now, I can't see them here, any of them. They've all taken refuge, like dogs around a lion. Those of us who've come as allies, we do all the fighting. I marched here as an ally, travelling far. For Lycia is a long, long way from here, by the swirling river Xanthus, where I left my dear wife, my infant son, much property, something poor men covet. But for all that I urge my Lycian troops to action. I stand and fight all comers on my own, when I've nothing for the enemy to take. But you stand around, without urging men to fight back or defend their wives. Watch out. You may become a prize yourself, a trophy for your enemies. You'll be like a fish snared in the meshes of a fatal net. They'll quickly smash your well-built city. You should be thinking of this day and night, imploring leaders of your famous allies to hold on staunchly, thus preventing them from mounting any serious complaints." Sarpedon's speech stung Hector's heart. Fully armed, he quickly jumped down from his chariot to the ground. Waving 2 sharp spears, he roamed through all the army, rousing men to fight, stealing hearts for dreadful war. Troops rallied once more and turned to face Achaeans. Argives too stood firm. The men did not withdraw. As on the sacred threshing floor, wind blows the chaff, while men stand winnowing the crop. When Demeter, with her golden hair, separates the grain from chaff in the rushing breeze, and piles of chaff grow whiter, so then Achaean troops grew white, covered with dust stirred up by horses' hooves. It coloured the sky bronze. So the chariots came on to battle once again, wheeled round by drivers' strong, ferocious hands. Headstrong Ares assisted Trojans in the battle, concealing them in darkness, roaming everywhere, carrying out his orders from Phoebus Apollo, God with the golden sword, who told him to arouse the Trojan spirits when he saw Pallas Athena leave the fighting, for she was helping the Danans. Apollo then sent Aeneas from his costly shrine, putting fighting strength into this warrior's heart, his people's shepherd. Aeneas rejoined his friends, who were overjoyed to see him safe and sound, alive, approaching with brave spirits. They did not question him. They had too much other work at hand to do. For Apollo, god with the silver bow, and Ares, the man-killer, along with insatiable strife, had stirred things up there on the battlefield. Then the two Ajaxes, Odysseus and Diomedes, roused Danaans, urging them to battle. They did not fear the Trojans' powerful attack, and stood their ground like clouds set in place by Zeus, son of Cronos, above a range of mountain peaks on a windless day, quite motionless, while the force of north wind and other raging blasts is sound asleep. When these storm winds blow, they scatter shadowy clouds. That's the way Danaans held their positions then, without flinching, without fear. The son of Atreus moved through the troops and gave out many orders. Agamemnon: "My friends, be men. Let courage fill your hearts. In the heat of battle, remember honour, each man's reputation. When men recall their honour, more troops are saved than slaughtered. Those who run away lose life and fame." Agamemnon spoke, then quickly hurled his spear. He hit a good fighting man, comrade to Aeneas, great-hearted Dicon, son of Pergasus, whom Trojans honoured as they did King Priam's sons, for he was quick to take his place among the best, the men who do their fighting at the very front. Mighty Agamemnon's spear struck against his shield, but the shield could not hold out. The bronze went through, piercing Dicon's belt and sinking in his gut. He fell with a thud, his armour rattling round him. Then Aeneas killed two of the best Danaans, Orsilochus and Crethon, whose father lived in well-built Fair, a man of property, descended from the river Alpheus, whose broad streams flow through Pylian land. The river bore Orsilochus, king of many men, and Orsilochus fathered great-hearted Diocles, to whom were born twin sons Orsilochus and Crethon, experts in all aspects of war. These two, once grown, came with Argives in black ships to Troy, city rich in horses, to win honour for Agamemnon and Menelaus, sons of Atreus. Death's final moment took them in, as two lions, cared for by their mother in a deep, thick forest on a mountain peak, steal stout sheep and cattle and plunder people's farmsteads until they perish, killed by sharp bronze in the hands of men. So these two died, cut down by Aeneas. They fell like lofty pines. War-loving Menelaus felt pity for these two, seeing them die. He made his way through the men's front ranks, armed in glittering bronze, brandishing his spear. Ares stirred his battle spirit, planning his death at Aeneas's hand. But then Antilochus, son of great-hearted Nestor, saw Menelaus. He hurried through the foremost ranks, in his concern for this shepherd of the people, that if he came to grief, all their efforts would be completely futile. Menelaus and Antilochus now faced Aeneas with eager hands and spears, ready to begin the fight. But when Antilochus stood by Menelaus, Aeneas, though a swift fighter, started to withdraw, seeing these two men standing their ground together. So Menelaus and Antilochus dragged the corpses of Crethon and Orsilochus to Achaean troops, placed the two dead heroes in the hands of friends, then turned back to fight with those in the front ranks. Antilochus and Menelaus then killed Pylaemenes, a man like Ares, leader of the Paphlagonians, great-hearted, shield-bearing men. The son of Atreus' famous spearman Menelaus struck him as he stood up in his chariot, hitting him right on his collarbone. Antilochus hit Mydon, Atimneus' noble son, the attendant driver, as he was wheeling his sure-footed horses round. He struck him with a rock square on the elbow. The reins, decorated with rich ivory, fell from his hands down onto the dusty ground. Antilochus sprang out and with his sword struck Mydon on the temple. Gasping with pain, Mydon pitched over and tumbled from the well-made chariot head first, his head and shoulders disappearing in the dirt. For some time he stayed stuck, buried in deep sand, until his horses kicked him flat, level with the dust, stamping him into the ground, as Antilochus whipped them on, leading them back to Achaean troops. Hector saw this from the lines. He ran against them, shouting wildly, with strong Trojan soldiers in support. Leading these men came Ares, along with fearful strife, bringing war's pitiless and murderous confusion. Ares worked with a huge spear in his hands, moving round, sometimes behind Hector, sometimes in front of him. When Diomedes, skilled in war cries, noticed Ares, he shuddered. Just a man crossing a large plain, stops at a raging river rushing to the sea, looks helplessly at swirling foam and moves away. So Tydeus' son backed off then, saying to his men, Diomedes, "My friends, we're so amazed Prince Hector is such a spearman, so courageous, warlike. But he's always got some god beside him to ward off destruction. Right now, it's Ares he has with him, looking like a mortal man. Stay turned towards the Trojans, but fall back. Don't try to battle on against the gods." Diomedes spoke. Trojans then approached much closer. Hector killed 2 men, keen warriors, Menestheus and Anculus, both riding in a single chariot. Seeing them fall, great Telamonian Ajax felt pity. He approached, stood firm, then threw his shining spear. The spear struck Amphius, son of Selagus, who owned much property in Paesus with many crops. Fate led him to become allied with Priam and his sons. Ajax, son of Telamon, hit Amphius in the belt. The long-shadowed spear struck hard, low in his gut. He collapsed with a crash. Noble Ajax ran up to strip the armour off, but Trojans showered him with bright, sharp spears. His shield took many hits. Pushing his heel into the corpse, he pulled out his bronze spear. But the hail of weapons stopped him stripping off Amphius's splendid armour from his shoulders. He feared the fierce, brave Trojans standing by the corpse, for many spearmen crowded him and forced him back. And Ajax, for all his massive size and strength, for all his courage, had to move back, shaken. As these men toiled in frantic battle, powerful fate drove strong, brave Tlepolemus, son of Hercules, against godlike Sarpedon. These 2 men approached, facing each other at close quarters, son and grandson of cloud-gathering Zeus. Tlepolemus called out first, "Tlepolemus, Sarpedon, counsellor to the Lycians, what forces you to cower down right here, quite ignorant in battle? Those who say you're Aegis-bearing Zeus's son are liars. You're far inferior to those men born of Zeus in times long past. Consider mighty Hercules, my father. He was quite different, they say, steadfast, brave, his spirit like a lion. He came here once for Laomedon's horses. With fewer men and only 6 ships, he sacked the Trojan city and emptied all its streets. But you've a paltry spirit, your troops are withering away. And it's impossible you'll help the Trojans by coming here from Lycia, even if you're powerful. I'll kill you, and you'll pass through Hades' gate." Sarpedon, Lycian leader, then said in reply, Sarpedon, "Yes, Tlepolemus, Hercules did destroy sacred Ilion, but through the foolishness of the city's king, high-born Laomedon, who tricked the man who'd worked so well for him. He didn't offer Hercules the horses he'd come so far to get. As for you, I'll now see to your death, that fatal blackness. You'll give me great glory, and your life you'll give to famous horseman Hades." Sarpedon spoke. Tlepolemus raised his ash spear high. Then 2 long spears flew from their hands together. Sarpedon's spear hit Tlepolemus right in the neck. The cruel point kept going. Dark night covered up his eyes. Tlepolemus's long spear struck Sarpedon in his left thigh. Its bloodthirsty point pierced him, aiming for the bone. On this occasion Father Zeus held off his fate. His brave companions carried off godlike Sarpedon, pulled down by the long spear's weight as it dragged behind. No one thought to pull the ash spear from his leg so he could walk. They were in such a rush to shift him. On the opposing side, well-armed Achaeans carried Tlepolemus away from battle. Godlike Odysseus noticed them, his spirit steady, but his fond heart was burning as he turned over in his mind whether to chase after that son of Zeus, loud thunderer, or stay to kill more Lycians. But fate did not decree that brave Odysseus should kill Zeus's mighty son with his sharp bronze. Athena turned his heart against that Lycian crowd, so he killed Choeranus, Alastor, Chromius, Alcandrus, Halius, Noemon and Prytanis. Lord Odysseus would have killed still more Lycians if Hector of the flashing helmet had not seen him, then gone through the ranks in front, armed in shining bronze, terrifying Danaans. Sarpedon, son of Zeus, was glad to see him coming. He implored Hector, "Sarpedon, son of Priam, don't let me lie here, a trophy for Danaans. Rescue me. Let me remain forever in your city, since it seems I'll not be going home to cheer up my dear wife and infant son." Hector of the flashing helmet made no reply. He charged on, eager to force the Argives quickly back, to massacre large numbers of their soldiers. Godlike Sarpedon's noble comrades placed him by a fine oak tree, sacred to aegis-bearing Zeus. Pelagon, his strong, well-loved attendant, then pushed the ash spear straight out through his thigh. Sarpedon fainted. A mist fell, clouding his eyes, but soon he breathed again. North wind's breeze revived him, blowing air into his heart as his spirit panted, gasping his life away. Argives were not driven back to their black ships by Ares or by bronze-armed Hector, nor did they wheel about to battle Trojans face to face. They kept moving back once they realized Ares was with the Trojans. Among the Argives, who were the first and last men killed by Hector, son of Priam and brazen Ares, they were godlike Teuthras, Orestes the charioteer, Trecus, an Aetolian spearman, Oenomaus Helenus, son of Enops, and Oresbius with his glittering belt, a man who lived in Hyle and kept himself preoccupied with wealth. 40 continue generating, please. ChatGPT, certainly. Here's the continuation of Iliad Book 5 with the names of the speakers added before their dialogues. A man who lived in Hyle and kept himself preoccupied with wealth along the shores of Lake Cephisia. Beside him lived even more Boeotians, owners of rich lands. White-armed goddess Hera saw Argives being slaughtered in the thick of battle. She spoke out to Athena. Hera, alas, Athena, child of aegis-bearing Zeus, tireless one, we've made an empty promise to Menelaus that he'd wipe out Troy, that well-built city, before going home. If we let murderous Ares rage on like this, come, let's both recall our fighting power. Athena, the bright-eyed goddess, agreed with Hera's words. So that revered goddess Hera, daughter of great Kronos, went to prepare her horses with their golden bridles. Then Hebe quickly checked the chariot's curved wheels, bronze with 8 spokes each, on axles made of iron, wheel rims made out of imperishable gold, edged with tires of close-fitted bronze, an amazing sight. Silver axle boxes revolve on either side. The body of the chariot has gold and silver strips. 2 rails run round it. The pole is made of silver. On its end, Hebe tied the crosspiece, lovely gold, then fixed the golden collar straps. Hera, keen for war, led her swift-footed horses out into their yoke. Then Athena, daughter of aegis-bearing Zeus, threw on her father's porch the embroidered gown which she had made herself with her own hands. She then put on the robe of cloud-gatherer Zeus and armed herself with weapons for that wretched war. She slung across her shoulders the fearsome tasselled aegis, its borders woven with fear, strife, force, terrorizing panic, with the chilling, horrifying and monstrous Gorgon's head, the horrifying emblem of aegis-bearing Zeus. On her head she placed a double-ridged gold helmet, men from 100 cities etched upon its 4-part crest. She set foot in her blazing chariot, grasping her huge, strong, heavy spear with which she kills men, heroes who annoy her, goddess with a mighty father. Hera quickly lashed the horses with her whip. The gates of heaven scraped open on their own. The seasons supervised them, for they're in charge of great heavenly Olympus, opening up the dense-packed clouds or closing them again. Through these gates the goddesses led out their horses, Hera lashing them ahead. They met the son of Kronos, sitting some distance from the other gods on the highest crest of many-ridged Olympus. White-armed goddess Hera reined in the horses, then spoke to Zeus, most high son of Kronos. Hera, Father Zeus, aren't you angry with Ares for killing off those warriors? He's wiped out so many Achaean men, good ones too, and so rashly. It's not right. It pains me. Meanwhile, Aphrodite and Apollo with his silver bow are enjoying themselves, happy about this madman they've unleashed, who has no sense of what's appropriate. Father Zeus, would I annoy you very much if I hurt Ares and chased him from this fight? Cloud-gatherer Zeus smiled, and then said in reply, Zeus, all right then, do that, but set Athena, goddess of the battle spoils, against him, for she's the one who's most accustomed to inflicting nasty pains on Ares. White-armed goddess Hera agreed with what Zeus said. She whipped the horses on. They flew off willingly, midway between the starry heaven and earth, as far as a man on a height can see in the distant haze as he looks out across the wine-dark sea. That's how far God's snorting horses vault in just one stride. When they came to Troy's 2 flowing rivers, where the Simoes and the Scamander meet, white-armed goddess Hera stopped the horses, loosed them from the chariot, and hid them in thick cloud. Simois produced ambrosia for them to eat. The goddesses moved stealthily like wild pigeons, eager to assist the Argive troops. They reached that place where most of the bravest men were fighting, in a crowd by mighty Diomedes, tamer of horses like lions who eat raw meat or wild boars whose strength is not easily exhausted. In that place Hera, white-armed goddess, stood up, looking just like Stentor, a great-hearted, loud-throated man whose voice could shout with the strength of 50 men. Hera cried out, "Hera, shame on you, you Argive warriors! You're a disgrace, good only for display. When Lord Achilles used to go to battle, the Trojans didn't dare to venture out beyond the Dardanian gates. They feared his mighty spear. But now they're fighting well outside the city, by our hollow ships." With these words, she roused each man's heart and spirit. Bright-eyed Athena quickly moved to Diomedes. She found that king beside his chariot and horses, recovering from the wound from Pandarus's arrow. The sweat under the wide strap of his round shield was bothering him. The chafing made his arms grow tired. He was lifting up the strap, wiping off dark blood. Setting her hand on the chariot yoke, the goddess said, "Athena, Tydeus had a son not much like his father. He may have been short, but he was a fighter. When I would not allow him into battle or to display himself that time he came to Thebes alone, far from his Achaeans, in the middle of all those Cadmeans, I told him to be quiet at the palace feast. But he possessed a powerful spirit always active in him. So he challenged Cadmean young men and beat them easily. That's how much I helped him. Now I stand here beside you, taking care of you, your friend, and I'm telling you to fight the Trojans. But you're either weary after so much action, your limbs worn out, or fear has made you timid. If so, then you're no son of Tydeus, the son of warlike Oeneus." In answer to Athena, mighty Diomedes said, "Diomedes, I recognize you, goddess daughter of Aegis-bearing Zeus. I'll speak to you quite openly, concealing nothing. It's not that fear has made me hesitant or anxious, but I'm remembering your own instructions, what you laid down. You told me not to fight face to face with any immortal god unless Zeus's daughter Aphrodite should come to battle. With my sharp bronze, I was to wound her. I've pulled myself back and told the other Argives to stay here, since I see Ares dominates the fight." Bright-eyed goddess Athena answered him, "Athena, Diomedes, son of Tydeus, you fill my heart with joy. Don't fear Ares or any other immortal deity, for I'll give you all the help you need. But come, first let your sure-footed horses charge at Ares. Hit him up close. Have no fear of headstrong Ares, that madman born evil, that fickle god. Just now he gave his word to me and Hera too that he would fight the Trojans and assist the Argives, but now he's forgotten that and helps the Trojans." Saying this, Athena grabbed Sthenelus' hand and hauled him from the chariot to the ground. He jumped up at once. The goddess climbed up eagerly beside Lord Diomedes in the chariot. The oaken axle groaned aloud, weighed down, bearing the fearful goddess and the finest man. Pallas Athena took up the reins and whip. First she led the sure-footed horses against Ares. He was removing armour from huge Periphas, Ochesius' fine son, by far the best of the Aetolians. Blood-stained Ares was stripping him of all his weapons. Then Athena put Hades' helmet on her head so she was invisible to mighty Ares, but man-killing Ares did see Diomedes. He let the body of huge Periphas lie there, where he'd first killed him and ripped out his spirit. He strode straight up to horse-taming Diomedes. When the two came to close quarters and faced each other, Ares thrust his bronze spear first over the yoke and horse's reins, eager to take Diomedes' life. Athena, bright-eyed goddess, hands gripping the reins, shoved the spear aside, so its thrust was harmless above the chariot. Diomedes, skilled in war cries, then made the second thrust with his bronze spear. Pallas Athena guided the weapon right to Ares' gut, the lower part where his waistband went around him. Diomedes wounded Ares, piercing his fair skin, then pulled back on his spear. Brazen Ares roared as loud as the screams of 9,000 or 10,000 men when they clash in war. Fear seized Achaeans. Trojans too, they shuddered. That's how strong that cry sounded as it came from Ares, insatiable for war. Just as a dark mist moves upward from the clouds, when in hot weather a strong wind arises, so brazen Ares looked to Tydeus' son Diomedes as the god at once soared up into the clouds, ascending to wide heaven. Ares, in a rush, went to the god's home. Steep Olympus sat by Zeus, distressed at heart. He showed Zeus where he was wounded, dripping with immortal blood, then made his complaint. His words had wings. Ares: "Father Zeus, aren't you incensed at this barbarity? We gods are always suffering dreadfully at each other's hands when we bring men help. We all lay the blame for this on you. For you gave birth to that insane young girl, your destructive daughter, always busy with some nastiness. All the other gods, all those on Mount Olympus, do what you say, and each of us is subject to your will, but you never punish her in word or deed. You do nothing because you gave birth to her yourself, to Athena, your vicious daughter. Just now she urged proud Diomedes, son of Tydeus, to charge insanely against deathless gods. First he attacked Aphrodite and struck her on the wrist. Then he charged me, even me, like a god. But my quick feet took me away. If not, I'd be in lasting pain with the fearful dead, or have barely lived wounded by bronze spears." Scowling at him, cloud-gatherer Zeus replied, "Zeus, you hypocrite, don't sit there whining at me. Among the gods who live on Mount Olympus, you're the one I hate the most. For you love war, constant strife and battle. Your mother, Hera, has an implacable, unyielding spirit. It's hard for me to control how she reacts to what I say. You're suffering because of her, through her conniving, that's what I think. But I'll leave you in pain no longer. You're my child. Your mother and I made you. But if you'd been born from any other god, by now you'd be lower than the sons of Uranos. You're so destructive." Zeus spoke. He instructed Paeon to heal Ares. Paeon cured him by spreading pain-killing herbs, for Ares wasn't born to die. Just as fig juice added quickly to white milk clots it at once, as it stirred, that's how fast headstrong Ares healed. Hebe washed him and clothed him in fine garments. He sat beside Zeus, son of Cronos, enjoying his splendour. Athena of Alalcomene and Argive Hera returned once more to mighty Zeus's house. Now they'd stopped man-killing Ares' slaughter. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the epic struggles of the Iliad. We hope this exploration has deepened your appreciation for the timeless stories and the complex characters that have fascinated readers for millennia. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more content on classic literature and mythological tales. Until next time, keep the spirit of adventure alive and continue exploring the rich world of ancient epics.